Commander Veltar Kesh stood on the bridge of his warship, looking out at the stars. His ship was huge and powerful. It had guns that could destroy planets. His crew was made up of the best warriors in the Zephyrian Empire. They had never lost a battle. The year was 2387. The Zephyrians had ruled this part of space for thousands of years. They were tall, strong beings with gray skin and sharp teeth. Their empire stretched across many star systems. Every alien race they met either joined them or died. "Commander," said his second officer, "we are getting strange signals from the edge of our space." Kesh walked over to look at the screen. "What kind of signals?" "Unknown type, sir. The ship sending them is small. It looks very basic. The metal it is made from is simple iron and steel. Their weapons look weak." Kesh laughed. "Another primitive race trying to explore space. How amusing. Have they seen us yet?" "Yes, sir. They are heading straight toward us." This surprised Kesh. Most alien ships ran away when they saw a Zephyrian warship. His ship was 3 times longer than the alien vessel. His guns were bigger than their entire ship. "Maybe they do not understand who we are," Kesh said. "Send them our standard warning message." The message was simple. It told all alien ships to leave Zephyrian space or be destroyed. It had worked for centuries. No one ever ignored it. Meanwhile, on the human ship USS Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison was reading the alien message. His bridge was smaller than the Zephyrian ship, but it was filled with advanced computers and screens. "What do you think, Amy?" Morrison asked his communications officer. Amy Brooks looked up from her station. "The translation software is working. On their language, Captain. It seems like they want us to leave." "Are they threatening us?" asked Chief Engineer Lisa Yang. "It sounds like it," Amy replied. "But they might just be scared. First contact is always tricky." Morrison was a calm man with gray hair. He had been in space for 20 years. He knew that many alien races acted tough when they were actually afraid. "Danny, what do our sensors tell us about their ship?" Morrison asked his weapons officer. Danny Rodriguez checked his screens. "It's big, Captain. Lots of weapons. But their technology is about 300 years behind ours. Their shields are basic. Their engines are slow." Morrison nodded. The humans had been traveling through space for only 50 years, but they had learned fast. Very fast. "Send them a friendly message, Amy. Tell them we come in peace. We want to talk." Amy typed the message and sent it. The translation computers worked quickly. Within seconds, the message was being heard on the Zephyrian ship. Kesh could not believe what he was hearing. The primitive aliens wanted to talk. They were not running away. They were not begging for mercy. "Sir," said his weapons officer. "Should we fire a warning shot?" Kesh thought for a moment. Warning shots always worked. The aliens would see the power of Zephyrian weapons and surrender immediately. Yes. Fire across their bow. Show them what happens to those who do not respect the Empire. The Zephyrian ship fired a bright beam of energy. It was hot enough to melt metal. It passed just in front of the human ship. Any normal vessel would have been damaged just from being near such a powerful weapon. On the Liberty, the crew watched the energy beam pass by their ship. "Interesting," said Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker from the tactical station. "Their plasma weapons are quite primitive. The beam temperature was only about 50,000 degrees. "Only 50,000? Morrison asked with a small smile. "Our hull can handle 10 times that temperature, Captain. Should I send them a message?" Morrison thought about it. These aliens seemed to think they were the strongest race in space. Maybe it was time to show them something new. Open a channel to their ship, Amy. Channel open, Captain. Morrison stood up and spoke clearly. Alien ship, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Liberty. We received your warning shot. We are not impressed. We still wish to talk in peace. On the Zephyrian ship, every crew member stopped what they were doing. The alien captain had just said their most powerful warning shot was not impressive? Sir, whispered the second officer. Maybe they did not understand the message. Kesh was angry now. No one had ever ignored a Zephyrian warning shot. No one had ever called it unimpressive. Charge all weapons, he ordered. Target their engines. We will disable their ship and take them prisoner. The Zephyrian ship began to glow as its weapons charged up. Energy crackled along its hull. The crew prepared for battle. On the Liberty, Dr. Kevin Walsh was studying the alien ship through his sensors. Captain, he said, I think we may have found a warrior race. Their ship is built only for fighting. Are they preparing to attack us? Morrison asked. It looks like it, replied Steve Parker. Their weapons are charging. They will fire in about 30 seconds. Morrison sighed. He had hoped these aliens would be peaceful, but humans had learned to be ready for anything. Lisa, bring our shields to full power. Steve, prepare defensive measures, but do not fire back unless I give the order. Yes, sir, both officers replied. Amy Brooks was still trying to talk to the aliens. Captain, I am sending them messages about peace. They are not answering. The Zephyrian weapons were almost ready. Kesh smiled. Soon these arrogant aliens would learn respect. Fire, he commanded. Multiple energy beams shot out from the Zephyrian ship. They were bright red and incredibly hot. Each beam had enough power to destroy a city. All of them hit the human ship at once. The Zephyrians expected to see an explosion. They expected to see the alien ship break apart. Instead, something impossible happened. The energy beams hit the human ship and simply disappeared. There was no explosion. There was no damage. The USS Liberty kept flying as if nothing had happened. What? Kesh said out loud. Fire again! More energy beams shot out. Again they hit the human ship and vanished. The Liberty was completely undamaged. On the human ship, Chief Engineer Lisa Yang was checking her instruments. Shields are holding. Fine, Captain. Their weapons are actually helping us. Our power levels are going up. Morrison raised an eyebrow. Their attacks are giving us more power? Yes, sir. Our shields absorb energy and feed it back to our engines. The more they shoot at us, the stronger we get. The Zephyrian crew was starting to panic. Their most powerful weapons were doing nothing. The alien ship was not even slowing down. How is this possible? Kesh asked his science officer. The science officer was looking at his instruments with wide eyes. Sir, their shields are not just blocking our weapons. They are absorbing the energy and using it somehow. For the first time in his life, Commander Veltar Kesh felt something he had never felt before: fear. Commander Kesh stared at his weapons display in disbelief. His most powerful guns had fired at the alien ship multiple times. Each shot should have destroyed the target completely. Instead, the human vessel was flying toward them as if nothing had happened. Sir, his weapons officer said with a shaking voice, all direct hits confirmed. No damage to the target. That is impossible, Kesh replied. Nothing can survive our plasma cannons. Nothing. The crew on the Zephyrian bridge looked at each other with worried faces. They had conquered hundreds of worlds with these same weapons. Every enemy had fallen before their power. But this small human ship was making their greatest weapons look like toys. On the USS Liberty, Captain Morrison was having a very different conversation with his crew. Lisa, How are our power systems doing? Morrison asked his chief engineer. Lisa Yang smiled as she looked at her screens. Better than ever, Captain. Their energy attacks are feeding our reactors. We now have 150% normal power. What about our shields? Morrison asked. Perfect condition, answered Steve Parker from the tactical station. Our adaptive shielding has completely learned their weapon patterns. They cannot hurt us anymore, even if they try new attacks. Amy Brooks turned from her communications station. Captain, the aliens are sending more messages. They sound very angry and confused. Morrison nodded. He felt sorry for the aliens. They probably thought they were the strongest beings in space. Now they were learning that the universe was much bigger than they knew. Keep trying to talk to them, Amy. Tell them we still want peace. Meanwhile, Commander Kesh was getting more desperate. He had never faced an enemy that could ignore his weapons completely. Load the quantum torpedoes, he ordered. If energy, weapons will not work. We will try explosives. His crew hurried to follow orders. Quantum torpedoes were the most destructive weapons in the Zephyrian arsenal. Each one could blow up a mountain. Kesh had never needed to use them against another ship before. Torpedoes ready, sir, reported the weapons officer. Fire all of them. Target their hull. 6 bright torpedoes shot out from the Zephyrian ship. They moved fast, leaving trails of light behind them. Each torpedo contained enough explosive power to destroy a small moon. On the Liberty, the sensors detected the incoming missiles immediately. Captain, Steve Parker said calmly, they have fired 6 high-yield torpedoes at us. Impact in 20 seconds. Can our shields handle them? Morrison asked. Easily, sir. But I have a better idea. Morrison was curious. What do you have in mind, Steve? We could show them something really interesting, Captain. Our tractor beam. Technology. Morrison smiled. The tractor beam was one of humanity's newest inventions. It could grab objects from far away and control them perfectly. Do it, Morrison said. Steve Parker worked at his controls with skilled hands. The Liberty's tractor beams reached out like invisible arms. They grabbed all 6 torpedoes while they were still flying through space. On the Zephyrian ship, the crew watched their screens in complete shock. The torpedoes had suddenly stopped moving. They were floating in space, not exploding, not moving forward. What happened to our weapons? Kesh demanded. Sir, his science officer said with a trembling voice, the alien ship has somehow captured our torpedoes. They are holding them in some kind of energy field. That is impossible. No one has that technology. Sir, they are moving the torpedoes. Now. Kesh looked at his main screen. The 6 torpedoes were slowly turning around. They were now pointing back at his own ship. Steve Parker spoke to Captain Morrison. Captain, I have control of their missiles. What should I do with them? Morrison thought carefully. He did not want to hurt the aliens, but he needed to show them how powerful human technology was. Send them into that empty asteroid field, Morrison said. Let the aliens see what their own weapons can do. Yes, sir. The Liberty gently pushed. The 6 torpedoes toward a group of floating rocks nearby. The torpedoes flew away from both ships and exploded among the asteroids. The explosion was incredible. Bright light filled space. When it faded, the asteroids were completely gone. Nothing was left but empty space and tiny pieces of dust. The Zephyrian crew was silent. They all understood what had just happened. The human ship had caught their most powerful weapons and thrown them away like garbage. Sir, the communications officer said quietly, the aliens are sending us another message. Kesh was almost afraid to hear it. What do they say? They say, we caught your missiles to show. You we do not wish to fight. We could have sent them back to your ship, but we chose not to. Please talk with us in peace. Commander Kesh sat down heavily in his command chair. These humans had just shown incredible power and incredible mercy at the same time. They could have destroyed his ship easily, but they chose to destroy empty rocks instead. Dr. Kevin Walsh was studying the alien ship from the Liberty's science station. Captain, I am reading interesting data from their vessel. What kind of data, Kevin? Morrison asked. Their heart rates are very high. Their body temperature has increased. I think they are experiencing fear for the first time. Amy Brooks looked up from her station. Captain, I am getting more signals from deeper in their space. It looks like they are calling for help. Morrison frowned. He did not want this situation to get worse. Fighting one alien ship was easy for the Liberty, but he preferred to make friends, not enemies. Can you tell what they are saying to their friends? Morrison asked. Amy worked with her translation computers for a few minutes. They are saying they have found aliens with impossible technology. They are asking for their strongest ships to come help them. Steve Parker checked his long-range sensors. Captain, I am detecting 5 more alien ships heading this way. They are bigger than this one. Much bigger. Morrison sighed. It looked like the peaceful first contact he had hoped for was not going to happen. But humanity had prepared for this possibility too. How long until they arrive? Morrison asked. About 30 minutes, sir. Good. That gives us time to try talking to these aliens one more time. Morrison stood up and walked to the center of his bridge. Amy, open a direct channel to their commander. Channel. Open, Captain. Alien Commander, this is Captain Morrison. We have shown you that we can defend ourselves. We have shown you that we do not wish to hurt you. Please call off your reinforcements. Let us meet and talk like civilized beings. On the Zephyrian ship, Commander Kesh heard the message. He looked around at his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. For the first time in his military career, Kesh did not know what to do. These humans were more powerful than anything he had ever seen, but they were also asking for peace. The question was, could he trust them? And more importantly, would his superiors allow him to make peace with aliens who had made the mighty Zephyrian Empire look weak? Commander Kesh was still trying to understand what had happened when his communications officer spoke up with panic in his voice. Sir, Admiral Thekmore Voss is calling. He wants to know why we sent a distress signal. Kesh felt his stomach drop. Admiral Voss was the most feared commander in the Zephyrian Empire. He had destroyed entire star systems without mercy. If Voss thought Kesh was weak or cowardly, Kesh would be executed. Put him through, Kesh said, trying to sound brave. The large screen on his bridge showed the face of Admiral Voss. The admiral was older than Kesh, with many scars from countless battles. His eyes were cold and angry. Commander Kesh, Voss said, in a voice like ice, explain to me why you are asking for help with one small alien ship. Kesh looked at his crew. They were all listening. He had to be careful with his words. Sir, this alien vessel has technology we do not understand. Our weapons cannot damage it. Admiral Voss laughed harshly. You cannot damage one primitive ship? Are you telling me that the mighty Zephyrian Empire is afraid of some backward aliens? Admiral, you do not understand. They caught our quantum torpedoes with some kind of energy field. They controlled our weapons like toys. The smile disappeared from Voss's face. Impossible. Nothing can stop quantum torpedoes. Sir, I am sending you our battle recordings now. Kesh uploaded the video files from the fight. Admiral Voss watched them on his own ship, which was still 30 minutes away. Kesh could see the Admiral's expression change as he watched the human ship absorb energy attacks and catch torpedoes. "What kind of beings are these?" Voss whispered. "We do not know, sir. They say they want to talk peacefully, but their power is beyond anything we have ever seen." Admiral Voss was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke again, but his voice was different now. Less confident. "I am bringing 5 dreadnoughts with me, Commander. The strongest ships in our fleet. We will see how peaceful these aliens really are." On the USS Liberty, Captain Morrison was having a meeting with his senior officers. They were discussing what to do about the incoming alien ships. 5 more ships coming, Steve Parker reported. Each one is about twice the size of the first one. Much more weapons. Dr. Kevin Walsh looked worried. "Captain, maybe we should leave. We came here to make peaceful contact, not to fight a war." Amy Brooks shook her head. "If we run away now, they might think all humans are easy to scare. They could attack Earth." Morrison nodded. Amy was right. Earth was still building its defenses. If these aliens thought humans were weak, they might try to invade. "What do you think, Lisa?" Morrison asked his chief engineer. Lisa Yang was checking her equipment readings. "Captain, our ship can handle much more than what we have seen so far, but I am worried about something else." "What is that?" "These aliens have been fighting for thousands of years. They are probably very good at war. We are good at technology, but we have never fought a real space battle." Morrison understood her concern. Humans were smart and their technology was amazing, but the Zephyrians had experience in combat that humans did not have. "Steve, what are our options?" Morrison asked his tactical officer. Steve Parker had been thinking about this problem. "Captain, we could show them something that would make them never want to fight us again." "What do you mean?" "We could demonstrate our real capabilities. Not just defense, but what we can actually do." Morrison was curious but careful. "Explain." "Well, sir, we have been holding back so far. We have only used basic shields and tractor beams. We have not shown them our advanced systems." Chief Medical Officer Nicole Turner joined the conversation. "What kind of advanced systems?" Steve smiled. "Our quantum manipulation technology. We can change the basic structure of matter. We can move through solid objects. We can even bend space and time in small ways." Dr. Kevin Walsh looked surprised. "Are you suggesting we show them impossible physics?" "Exactly," Steve replied. "Sometimes the best way to avoid a fight is to show your enemy that fighting would be hopeless." Morrison thought about this idea. It was risky, but it might be the only way to prevent a bigger war. Meanwhile, Admiral Voss was getting closer with his powerful fleet. His 5 dreadnoughts were the pride of the Zephyrian military. Each ship carried enough weapons to destroy planets. Together, they had never been defeated. "Admiral," his science officer reported, "we are detecting strange energy readings from the alien ship." "What kind of readings?" "Sir, it looks like they are scanning our ships, but their scanners are going right through our shields. They are reading our internal systems." This made Admiral Voss very angry. Zephyrian shields had never been penetrated before. The idea that aliens could see inside his ships was insulting. "How is that possible?" "I do not know, sir. They're scanning. Technology is unlike anything we have seen." On the Liberty, Chief Science Officer Maria Santos was indeed scanning the approaching alien fleet. What she found was very interesting. "Captain," she reported, "their ships are powerful but very simple. They use basic nuclear fusion for power. Their computers are primitive. Their weapons are all energy-based. What about their defenses? Morrison asked. Standard deflector shields. They work by pushing energy away from the ship. Very basic design. Morrison nodded. So they have never fought anyone with advanced technology. Exactly, sir. They probably win battles by having bigger guns than their enemies. Amy Brooks looked up from her communication station. Captain, the aliens are trying to scan us too. But our shields are blocking them completely. Good. Let them wonder what we are hiding. Steve Parker had an idea. Captain, what if we let them scan us, but only the parts we want them to see? Morrison was interested. What would that accomplish? We could show them just enough to scare them. Let them see how advanced our technology really is. Dr. Kevin Walsh was worried about this plan. That could make them more likely to attack us. Or, said Amy Brooks, it could make them realize that attacking us would be suicide. Morrison made his decision. Do it, Steve. But be careful. Show them our power, but also show them that we do not want to use it. Steve Parker worked at his controls. He lowered certain parts of the Liberty's shields. He allowed the alien scanners to detect some of their advanced systems, but not all of them. On Admiral Voss's ship, the science officer suddenly started reading incredible data. Sir, I am getting readings from inside the alien ship now. What? Do you see? Admiral, this is impossible. Their power core is generating more energy than our sun. Their hull is made of materials that should not exist. And, sir, what? They have weapons that could destroy our entire fleet with one shot. But the weapons are not powered up. They are not preparing to attack. Admiral Voss felt something he had not felt in 50 years of military service. Real fear. These aliens could destroy his entire fleet easily. But they were choosing not to. They were giving him a chance to make peace. The question was, would his pride let him take it? Admiral Voss arrived with his 5 massive dreadnoughts just as he had promised. Each ship was enormous, covered in weapons and armor. Together they formed the most powerful battle group in Zephyrian history. They had destroyed entire civilizations without losing a single ship. The Admiral looked at the small human vessel on his main screen. It was so tiny compared to his fleet. But the scanning data his science officer had shown him made his hands shake with fear. All ships, battle formation, Voss commanded through the fleet communications. Target the alien vessel. His 5 dreadnoughts moved into position around the USS Liberty. Each ship pointed hundreds of weapons at the human ship. The combined firepower could destroy a moon. On the Liberty, Captain Morrison watched the alien ships surround them. His crew was calm, but he could see they were ready for anything. Captain, Steve Parker reported, they have us surrounded. 5 ships, approximately 2,000 weapons total pointed at us. Are you worried, Steve? Morrison asked with a small smile. Not really, sir. Their weapons are still using the same basic technology as the first ship, just more of them. Amy. Brooks turned from her communication station. Captain, the alien admiral is sending us a message. Let me hear it. Admiral Voss's voice came through the speakers. His tone was harsh and commanding. Alien ship, you are surrounded by the most powerful fleet in this sector of space. Surrender now or be destroyed. Morrison stood up from his captain's chair. He had hoped to avoid this moment, but the aliens seemed determined to fight. Amy, open a channel to all their ships. Channel open, Captain. Morrison spoke clearly and calmly. Admiral Voss, this is Captain Morrison of the USS Liberty. You are making a terrible mistake. We do not wish to fight you, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. On his flagship, Admiral Voss laughed. "You think one small ship can fight my entire fleet? You are either very brave or very stupid." "We are neither," Morrison replied. "We are simply confident in our abilities." Admiral Voss had heard enough. These aliens had embarrassed Commander Kesh, and now they were insulting him directly. It was time to show them the power of the Zephyrian Empire. All ships, fire at will. Destroy that vessel. Every weapon on all 5 dreadnoughts fired at once. The space around the Liberty filled with energy beams, plasma bolts, and explosive missiles. It was the largest attack ever launched by the Zephyrian fleet. The Liberty disappeared completely inside a ball of bright energy and explosions. The attack continued for 30 seconds. When it finally stopped, Admiral Voss expected to see nothing but empty space and debris. Instead, the USS Liberty was floating exactly where it had been before. There was no damage, no smoke, no signs that anything had happened at all. "Impossible," Admiral Voss whispered. On the Liberty, Chief Engineer Lisa Yang was checking her systems with satisfaction. "Captain, all that energy has boosted our power, levels to 300% of normal. Our shields are actually stronger now than when we started." "Excellent," Morrison said. "I think it is time to show them what human technology can really do." Dr. Kevin Walsh looked concerned. "Captain, are you sure we should escalate this situation?" Morrison nodded. "Kevin, sometimes you have to show strength to achieve peace. These aliens only understand power." Steve Parker was ready with several demonstration options. "What would you like me to show them first, Captain?" Morrison thought for a moment. "Something that will make them question everything they think they know about physics." "I have just the thing, sir." Steve Parker activated one of the Liberty's most advanced systems, the quantum phase generator. This device could change the ship's relationship with normal matter and energy. The USS Liberty began to change. Its solid hull became translucent, like glass. Then it became completely invisible to normal sensors. The ship was still there, but it existed partially outside normal space. On the Zephyrian ships, chaos erupted on every bridge. "Sir," the alien. "Ship is gone," reported one science officer. "No, it is still there," shouted another. "But our weapons cannot lock onto it." Admiral Voss watched his sensors with growing horror. The human ship was phasing in and out of existence. Sometimes it was solid. Sometimes it was like a ghost. His most advanced targeting systems could not get a fix on it. "How are they doing?" "This?" he demanded. His science officer was frantically checking his instruments. "Admiral, they appear to be shifting between dimensions. They are existing in our space and somewhere else at the same time." The Liberty began to move in ways that should have been impossible. It flew straight through one of the asteroid fields without touching the rocks. The ship passed through solid matter as if it was not there. Then something even more incredible happened. The Liberty split into 5 identical copies of itself. Each copy flew toward one of the Zephyrian dreadnoughts. "Sir, which one is the real ship?" asked Admiral Voss's weapons officer. "I do not know," Voss replied. "Fire at all of them." The Zephyrian ships fired at the 5 Liberties. Their weapons passed right through 4 of them without causing any damage, but one Liberty absorbed all the energy attacks and became brighter. "The other 4 are illusions," the science officer reported, "but they look completely real to our sensors." Admiral Voss was beginning to understand that he was not fighting a normal enemy. These humans had technology that seemed like magic, Ani. The real Liberty, Morrison was pleased with the demonstration. "How are they reacting, Amy?" Amy Brooks was monitoring Zephyrian communications. They are very confused and frightened, Captain. They are asking each other how we can do impossible things. Good. Steve, show them something even more impressive. Steve. Parker smiled. Yes, sir. The Liberty's copies disappeared. The ship became solid again. But now it began to demonstrate its most amazing capability. The ship targeted a large asteroid that was floating nearby. Instead of destroying it with weapons, the Liberty used its matter manipulation technology. The rocky asteroid began to change shape. It stretched and twisted. Within minutes, it had been reformed into a perfect metal sphere. Then, the Liberty changed the sphere's composition. Rock became iron. Iron became gold. Gold became a material that did not exist naturally anywhere in the universe. The Zephyrian. Crews watched in absolute silence. They were seeing the humans change the basic building blocks of reality. Matter and energy obeyed human commands like obedient servants. Admiral! Commander Kesh's voice came through the communication system. I told you these aliens were beyond our understanding. Admiral Voss sat in his command chair, staring at the screen. His proud fleet, which had never known defeat, was completely helpless against one small human ship. But what terrified him most was not human power. It was human restraint. These aliens could have destroyed his entire fleet in seconds. They could have turned his ships into gold or made them phase out of existence. Instead, they were playing with rocks and showing off. They were treating the mighty Zephyrian Empire like children who needed to be taught a lesson. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Thekmor Voss realized he was completely outmatched. The question now was whether his pride would let him admit it. Sir, his communications officer said quietly, the aliens are sending us another message. Voss closed his eyes. He was afraid to hear what the humans would say next. Put it through, he said finally. Captain Morrison's calm voice filled the bridge of every Zephyrian ship. Admiral Voss, we have shown you a small sample of human capabilities. We could have destroyed your entire fleet, but we chose not to. We still want peace. Will you talk with us now? Admiral Voss stared at the communication panel for a long time. His bridge was completely silent. Every crew member was waiting to see what their commander would do. The Admiral had spent his entire life building a reputation as the strongest warrior in the Zephyrian Empire. He had never surrendered. He had never backed down from a fight. But he had also never faced an enemy that could change the laws of physics. Sir, his second officer whispered, what are your orders? Voss looked around at his crew. These were good soldiers who trusted him to keep them alive. If he continued this fight, they would all die for nothing. Power down all weapons, he said quietly. Sir? His weapons officer asked, not sure he had heard correctly. Power down all weapons, Voss repeated more loudly. Send a message to the alien ship. Tell them we wish to talk. On the USS Liberty, Captain Morrison received the message with relief. He had not wanted to hurt the aliens, but he was prepared to defend his ship and crew. They are powering down their weapons, Captain, Steve Parker reported. Good. Amy, send them coordinates for a meeting. Somewhere neutral. Amy Brooks worked at her station. There is a small moon nearby with a breathable atmosphere. We could meet there. Perfect. Send them the location. Meanwhile, Admiral Voss was dealing with angry messages from his own crew and from other ships in his fleet. Admiral, Captain Zekloth of the Dreadnought Blade of Victory called over the communications. Why are we surrendering to one alien ship? We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not bow to anyone. You did not see what I saw, Captain, Voss replied. These aliens can do things that should be impossible. They could destroy our entire fleet without effort. That is impossible, sir. No technology is that advanced. Admiral Voss was tired of arguing. Zekloth, I am sending you the complete battle recordings. Watch them. Then tell me if you still want to fight. He uploaded all the sensor data from the battle. Video of the human ship absorbing energy attacks. Video of their weapons being caught and controlled. Video of the ship phasing through solid matter and changing the structure of asteroids. One by one, the other captains in his fleet watched the recordings. One by one, they became silent. Captain Zekloth was the last to speak. Admiral, forgive me. I did not understand what we were facing. None of us did, Voss replied, but now we must decide how to move forward. On the Liberty, Captain Morrison was preparing for the first face-to-face meeting between humans and aliens. He chose a small team to accompany him to the moon's surface. I want Dr. Kevin Walsh with me for his xenobiology expertise, Morrison said. Amy Brooks for communications, and Steve Parker for security. Chief Medical Officer Nicole Turner looked concerned. Captain, is it safe to meet them in person? We do not know anything about their biology. That is a good point, Nicole. Run a quick scan of their ship. Make sure we can breathe the same air and that they do not carry any dangerous diseases. Nicole worked with her medical scanners. After a few minutes, she reported back. They breathe oxygen like we do, Captain. No dangerous bacteria or viruses detected. But, Captain, what is it? Their stress levels are extremely high. Heart rate, brain activity, hormone production. They are experiencing severe fear and anxiety. Morrison nodded. That is understandable. We probably seem very frightening to them right now. Dr. Kevin Walsh had a suggestion. Captain, maybe we should bring some gifts. Something to show our peaceful intentions. What kind of gifts? Well, they seem to be impressed by our technology. Maybe we could share some basic scientific knowledge with them. Show them that we want to help, not hurt. Morrison liked this idea. Good thinking, Kevin. Prepare some basic information about human science and culture. Nothing too advanced, but enough to show our good intentions. Meanwhile, Admiral Voss was having a similar conversation with his officers. They were discussing how to approach the meeting with beings who seemed to have godlike powers. Sir, Commander Kesh suggested, perhaps we should bring tribute. Gold, precious metals, advanced weapons. Admiral Voss shook his head. Did you see what they did to that asteroid? They can create any material they want. Our gold and weapons are worthless to them. Then what can we offer beings who can control matter itself? Respect, Voss said simply, and our willingness to learn. The meeting was arranged for 2 hours later. Both sides prepared carefully. Captain Morrison changed into his formal dress uniform. It was dark blue with gold trim, representing Earth's Navy traditions. He wanted to look professional but not threatening. Admiral Voss also chose his clothing carefully. He selected his ceremonial armor but left all weapons behind. It was the first time in his life he had entered a meeting completely unarmed. The small moon where they would meet was beautiful. It had blue oceans, green forests, and white clouds. The atmosphere was clean and fresh. Both ships landed their shuttles on a flat area near a peaceful lake. Captain Morrison walked out of his shuttle with his 3 crew members. They moved slowly and kept their hands visible, showing they were not armed. Admiral Voss emerged from his shuttle with Commander Kesh and 2 other officers. The Zephyrians were much taller than the humans, with gray skin and sharp features, but their body language showed respect, not aggression. The 2 groups stopped about 10 meters apart. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Captain Morrison stepped forward and raised his right hand in a peaceful gesture. "Admiral Voss, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Space Force. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." Admiral Voss looked at this human who commanded impossible technology. Morrison was smaller than any Zephyrian, with no natural weapons or armor. But Voss had seen what human science could accomplish. "Captain Morrison," Voss replied, "I am Admiral Thekmor Voss of the Zephyrian Empire. We wish to understand what we have encountered today." Morrison smiled gently. "We are just people, Admiral. We come from a planet called Earth. We have been traveling through space for only 50 years. We came here hoping to make friends." "Friends?" Voss was confused. "But your power, your technology, you could rule this entire sector of space." "We do not want to rule anyone," Morrison said. "We want to learn and explore and meet new forms of life. We believe the universe is big enough for everyone to live in peace." Admiral Voss had conquered hundreds of worlds. He had never met anyone who had power but did not want to use it to control others. "Why?" he asked. "Why do you seek peace when you could have dominion?" Morrison thought about how to explain human philosophy to a warrior race. "Admiral, we learned long ago that fighting only creates more fighting. Peace creates prosperity. Cooperation creates knowledge. We have become powerful not through war, but through working together." Commander Kesh stepped forward. "Captain Morrison, your technology seems like magic to us. How did your people achieve such advancement?" Amy Brooks answered this question. "We share everything we learn. When one human discovers something new, all humans benefit from it. We have millions of scientists working together to solve problems." Dr. Kevin Walsh added, "We also learn from our mistakes. Our planet has seen many wars. We decided long ago that cooperation was better than conflict." Admiral Voss was trying to understand this concept. In Zephyrian culture, power meant the right to rule. Knowledge was kept secret to maintain advantage over enemies. "You share your knowledge freely?" he asked. "Yes," Morrison replied. "We believe that everyone becomes stronger when everyone learns together." For the first time in his life, Admiral Voss began to imagine a different way of existing in the universe, a way where strength was used to protect, not conquer, where knowledge was shared, not hoarded. It was a revolutionary idea for a Zephyrian warrior. "Captain Morrison," he said slowly, "perhaps we have much to learn from each other." The meeting by the lake continued for several hours. Both sides shared stories about their worlds and their people. The more Admiral Voss learned about humans, the more confused he became. "Captain Morrison," Voss said, "you say your people choose cooperation over conquest. But how do you maintain order? How do you prevent the strong from taking advantage of the weak?" Morrison sat on a large rock near the water's edge. The peaceful setting seemed to help both sides relax. "We have laws and governments," Morrison explained. "But more importantly, we teach our children that helping others makes everyone stronger." Commander Kesh found this hard to believe. "On Zephyr, our home world, the strongest rule because they can protect the weak. Without strong leaders, there is chaos." Dr. Kevin Walsh joined the conversation. That works for your people, because that is how your culture developed. But humans learned that many minds working together can solve problems that one strong leader cannot. Amy Brooks had been studying the Zephyrian language during the meeting. She was beginning to understand their culture better. "Admiral," she said, "can you tell us about your empire? How many worlds do you control?" Admiral Voss looked proud as he answered. "The Zephyrian Empire controls over 300 star systems. We have brought order and strength to countless worlds." "What happens to the people who already lived on those worlds?" Morrison asked gently. "They become part of the Empire. They follow our laws and benefit from our protection." Steve Parker, who had been quiet until now, asked a careful question. "Do they have a choice? Can they say no to joining your empire?" Admiral Voss was silent for a moment. The question had never occurred to him before. "Why would they want to say no?" he finally replied. "We make them stronger. We protect them from their enemies." "But what if they do not want protection?" Morrison asked. "What if they prefer to live their own way?" This conversation was making Admiral Voss very uncomfortable. In Zephyrian culture, strength gave the right to rule. It was natural law. "Captain Morrison, your people are clearly more advanced than mine. Do you not have the right to rule over less advanced species?" Morrison shook his head firmly. "No, Admiral. Power does not give us the right to control others. It gives us the responsibility to protect and help them." Commander Kesh was struggling to understand this concept. "But if you do not use your power to rule, other species might attack you or your allies." "That is possible," Morrison agreed. "But we have found that most conflicts come from fear and misunderstanding. When people trust each other, they do not want to fight." Dr. Kevin Walsh had been observing the Zephyrians carefully. "Admiral, can I ask you something personal?" "Yes. In your entire military career, how many times have you fought enemies who were as strong as you?" Admiral Voss thought about this question. "Very few times. Most species we encounter have inferior technology. And when you do meet equals, what happens? We usually find ways to avoid direct conflict, or we negotiate territorial agreements." Morrison smiled. "So you already know how to make peace with equals. You just have not considered making peace with those who are weaker." This hit Admiral Voss like a physical blow. He had never thought about it that way before. Amy Brooks had another question. "Admiral, what do your people do for fun? What makes you happy?" The Zephyrians looked at each other in confusion. "Fun?" Commander Kesh asked. "Yes. When you are not working or fighting, what do you enjoy doing?" Admiral Voss struggled to answer. We train for battle. We study military tactics. We compete to become stronger." "Do you have art, music, stories?" Dr. Kevin Walsh asked. "We have victory songs, stories of great battles." Morrison felt sad for these aliens. They seemed to live only for war and conquest. "Would you like to see something from our culture?" Morrison asked. Amy Brooks pulled out a small device from her pocket. It was a portable holographic projector. She activated it, and suddenly the air above them filled with beautiful images. The hologram showed Earth from space, blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. Then it showed human cities with tall buildings and peaceful parks, children playing in schools, scientists working in laboratories, musicians performing concerts. The Zephyrians watched in amazement. They had never seen anything like it. "This is our home," Morrison said. This is what we are trying to protect and share with others. Admiral Voss was staring at the images of human children playing together. Zephyrian children were trained to fight from a very young age. The idea of children simply playing for enjoyment was foreign to him. Your young ones, they do not train for war? Some choose military careers when they grow up, Morrison replied. But most become doctors, teachers, artists, scientists, farmers. We need all kinds of people to make our society work. Commander Kesh pointed at the hologram. What is that? The tall structures with plants growing on them? Those are apartment buildings, Amy explained. People live there. The plants help clean the air and provide food. People choose to live together in the same building? Yes. Many humans enjoy living in communities. We like being near our friends and families. This was another shock for the Zephyrians. In their culture, only military units lived together. Families were spread out to prevent weakening through emotional attachments. Dr. Kevin Walsh showed them more images. Human hospitals where doctors healed anyone who needed help, regardless of whether they could pay. Schools where knowledge was taught freely to all children. Laboratories where scientists from different countries worked together on important problems. You share your knowledge with everyone? Admiral Voss asked. Even your enemies? We try not to have enemies, Morrison said. We have found that helping others usually makes them want to help us in return. Steve Parker added, Sometimes people do try to hurt us, but we have learned that defeating an enemy is not as good as making a friend. Admiral Voss was quiet for a long time. Everything he had believed about strength and power was being challenged. Captain Morrison, he said finally, I have spent my entire life believing that the strong must rule the weak. That conquest brings order. That fear creates respect. And now? Morrison asked gently. Now I see beings who are stronger than any Zephyrian, but who choose to be gentle. Who could conquer the galaxy, but prefer to make friends? Commander Kesh was looking at the holographic images of Earth with wonder. Your world looks so peaceful, so beautiful. It was not always that way, Amy Brooks said. Humans fought many wars before we learned to work together. We made many mistakes. But you learned from those mistakes, Admiral Voss said. Yes, and we are still learning. Admiral Voss stood up and looked at Captain Morrison. Captain, I came here today expecting to negotiate the surrender of inferior aliens. Instead, I have discovered that I am the inferior one. Morrison shook his head. No, Admiral, you are not inferior. You are different. And there is value in strength and courage. The question is how we choose to use those qualities. What do you mean? The Zephyrian Empire could become a force for protection instead of conquest. Your strength could defend the weak instead of controlling them. Admiral Voss had never considered this possibility. You think we could change? I think every species can choose to grow and become better, Morrison replied. Humans did it. Maybe Zephyrians can too. For the first time in his life, Admiral, Voss began to imagine a universe where the Zephyrian Empire was loved instead of feared, where their strength brought hope instead of terror. It was a beautiful and terrifying idea. The sun was setting on the small moon where humans and Zephyrians had been talking for hours. The sky turned beautiful colors of orange and purple. Both groups had learned much about each other. Admiral Voss was walking along the shore of the lake with Captain Morrison. The other officers from both sides were sharing stories and comparing their technologies. Captain Morrison, Admiral Voss said, I must ask you something important. My government will want to know about this meeting. What should I tell them? Morrison picked up a smooth stone and threw it across the water. It skipped 3 times before sinking. Tell them the truth, Admiral. Tell them you met humans who want to be friends with the Zephyrian Empire. They will not believe that beings with your power want friendship instead of conquest. Then maybe you should bring some of them here to meet us personally. Admiral Voss thought about this idea. That is possible, but Captain, there is something you must understand about my people. What is that? We have been warriors for thousands of years. Our entire society is built around strength and military power. Even if some Zephyrians believe your message of peace, many others will see it as weakness. Morrison nodded. He had, expected this problem. Change is never easy, Admiral. But sometimes it is necessary for survival. What do you mean? Morrison stopped walking and looked directly at Admiral Voss. Admiral, humans are not the only advanced species in the universe. As you explore more space, you will meet others like us. Some of them may not be as peaceful as we are. This thought had not occurred to Admiral Voss. He had always assumed the Zephyrians were the strongest race in space. You have met other species with advanced technology? A few. Most are peaceful, but some are not. And Admiral, the old ways of conquest and military force will not work against beings who can manipulate matter and energy like we do. Admiral Voss felt a chill run through his body. You are saying that military power is becoming obsolete? Not obsolete, but it must be used differently. Strength should protect, not conquer. Military force should defend peace, not create war. Back near the shuttles, Commander Kesh was having a fascinating conversation with Dr. Kevin Walsh about Zephyrian biology and culture. Dr. Walsh, Kesh said, your people live much longer than ours. How do you handle the problem of overpopulation? We spread out to different worlds, Kevin replied. But we also focus on education and birth planning. Most humans choose to have smaller families and invest more time in raising their children? Interesting. Zephyrians have large families because many children die in military training. This information shocked Kevin. Children die in training? Yes. Only the strongest survive to become full warriors. It has always been our way. Kevin tried to hide his horror at this information. Commander, what if there was a way to make all your children strong without killing the weaker ones? How? Medical technology, genetic therapy, education and training. Programs that build strength without causing death. Commander Kesh had never considered this possibility. You could help us save our children? We could try. If your people were interested in learning. Meanwhile, Amy Brooks was teaching the Zephyrian communications officer about human languages and art. We have over 6,000 different languages on Earth, Amy explained. 6,000? How do you communicate with each other? We learn multiple languages, and we have translation technology like the devices we are using now. But do you not fight wars over these differences? Sometimes in the past. But we learned that different languages and cultures make us stronger, not weaker. They give us different ways of thinking about problems. The Zephyrian officer was amazed. On Zephyr, we have one language, one culture, one way of thinking. That can be efficient for military purposes, Amy agreed, but it limits creativity and problem-solving ability. Steve Parker was discussing defensive strategies with Admiral Voss's security chief. Your weapons are designed only for attack, Steve observed. What do you do when you encounter enemies who cannot be defeated by force? We have never encountered such enemies before today. Well, now you have. So you need new strategies. What kind of strategies? Diplomacy, trade, cultural exchange, finding common interests instead of looking for differences. The security chief was confused. But how do you defeat an enemy without fighting them? You do not defeat them. You make them not want to be your enemy anymore. As the evening continued, more and more Zephyrians began to understand what the humans were offering. It was not conquest or surrender. It was a completely new way of thinking about relationships between species. Captain Morrison gathered both groups together as the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Admiral Voss, we have talked for many hours. What are your thoughts? Admiral Voss looked at his officers. He could see that they had all been changed by this encounter. Captain Morrison, I believe you have given us a great gift today. You have shown us that there is another way to be strong. What will you do now? I will return to Zephyr and speak to our High Council. I will tell them about humans and about the choice we must make. What choice is that? Whether to continue being a force of conquest in the galaxy, or to become a force of protection. Commander Kesh stepped forward. Admiral, I request permission to accompany the humans on their ship for a short time. I want to learn more about their culture and technology. Admiral Voss was surprised by this request. You want to leave the fleet? Just temporarily, sir, to study and learn. If we are going to change, we need to understand how change is possible. Captain Morrison smiled. Commander Kesh would be welcome on the Liberty. We could show him our home world, Earth. Dr. Kevin Walsh had another suggestion. Captain, maybe we could send a small group of humans to visit Zephyr as well. Cultural exchange works both ways. Admiral Voss liked this idea. That would be very valuable. My people need to see humans in person to believe what I will tell them. Amy Brooks was excited about the possibilities. We could set up regular meetings between our species, share scientific knowledge, cultural information, maybe even work together on exploration projects. Steve Parker had a more practical concern. Admiral, what about other Zephyrian military units? Will they understand this change in policy? That will be the greatest challenge, Admiral Voss admitted. Many of my fellow commanders will see peace as weakness. Then we will have to show them that peace is actually a form of strength, Morrison said. How? By demonstrating that cooperation achieves better results than conquest. By proving that friends are more valuable than subjects. Admiral Voss stood up and looked at the stars above them. Somewhere out there was his home world, where his people were waiting to hear about this encounter. Captain Morrison, I make you this promise. I will do everything in my power to convince the Zephyrian Empire to choose the path of peace. Morrison stood and extended his hand to Admiral Voss. And I promise that humanity will help you in any way we can. The two commanders shook hands under the alien stars. It was a small gesture, but it marked the beginning of a new age in galactic history. Behind them, their crews were already making plans for the future. Plans for cultural exchanges, scientific cooperation, and mutual defense agreements. The Zephyrian Empire would never be the same, and neither would humanity. Both species had learned that the universe was much bigger and more complex than they had imagined. But they had also learned that they did not have to face it alone. As the meeting came to an end, both groups prepared to return to their ships. But they knew this was not goodbye. It was the beginning of a friendship that would last for generations. The first contact between humans and aliens had ended not in conquest or surrender, but in hope for a better future for all species in the galaxy. 3 months had passed since the historic meeting between humans and Zephyrians. The galaxy was beginning to change in ways no one had expected. Admiral Voss had returned to the Zephyrian home world and presented his report to the High Council. The meeting had not gone well at first. "You want us to abandon thousands of years of military tradition?" High Commander Zareth had demanded. "You want us to become weak like these humans?" "The humans are not weak," Admiral Voss had replied. "They are the strongest beings we have ever encountered. But they choose to use their strength to protect, not to conquer." That makes no sense. Why have power if you do not use it to rule? "Admiral," Voss had shown the Council the recordings from his encounter with the USS Liberty. The room had fallen silent as they watched human technology do impossible things. "By the ancient gods," High Commander Zareth had whispered. "They could destroy our entire fleet, yes, but they chose not to. They chose to talk instead." The debate had continued for weeks. Some council members wanted to prepare for war against the humans. Others wanted to learn from them. A few extreme voices had even suggested surrendering the entire empire to human rule. Admiral Voss had argued for a different path. "We do not need to surrender to them or fight them. We can learn from them. We can become their allies." Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Morrison was giving his own report. "To the United Earth Space Command, the Zephyrians are a proud warrior race," Morrison had explained to the admirals and politicians gathered in the briefing room. "But they are not evil. They simply never learned that there was an alternative to conquest." "Can they be trusted?" asked Admiral Sarah Bennett, the head of Earth's Space Forces. "I believe so. Admiral Voss is an honorable man. He wants what is best for his people. But what about the rest of their empire? Will they all accept this change?" Morrison had been honest about the challenges. "No. Some of them will resist. Change is never easy, especially when it involves giving up old ways of thinking." "Then, what do you recommend?" "Patience. Support. We help those who want to change, and we protect ourselves from those who do not." Back on the USS Liberty, Commander Kesh was experiencing human culture firsthand. The Zephyrian officer had been living on the ship for 2 months, learning about human technology and society. "Dr. Walsh," Kesh said one day while they were working in the medical bay, "I have been thinking about what you told me about saving our children." "What about it?" "We have lost so many young ones over the centuries. So much potential wasted." Kevin Walsh nodded sadly. "But that can change. We could help you develop better training methods, medical technology to make your children stronger without putting them in danger. My people would resist such changes. They believe that only through struggle and survival can true strength be achieved. Then maybe we start small. A few families who are willing to try new methods. When they see the results, others might follow." Commander Kesh had been amazed by human medical technology. He had watched doctors heal injuries that would have meant death for a Zephyrian. He had seen children learning without fear, growing, strong through education rather than combat. On the bridge of the Liberty, Captain Morrison was receiving a message from Admiral Voss. "Captain Morrison," the Admiral's voice came through the communicator, "I have news from Zephyr." "Good news or bad news, Admiral?" "Both. The High Council has agreed to a limited trial of peaceful cooperation. 5 star systems have volunteered to try the human approach." Morrison smiled. "That is excellent news. What is the bad news?" "Many sectors of the Empire have rejected the new policies. 3 regional commanders have declared independence rather than give up their conquest campaigns." This was what Morrison had feared. "So the Empire is dividing?" "Yes. those who want peace, and those who want to continue the old ways. Amy Brooks, who was monitoring the conversation, had a suggestion. "Admiral, maybe that is not entirely bad. The peaceful Zephyrians can form their own alliance with humanity." Admiral Voss considered this idea. "You would ally with rebels against the Empire?" "We would ally with anyone who chooses peace over conquest," Morrison replied. "The question is, what will happen to the worlds controlled by the commanders who rejected the new policies? They will continue to attack and conquer as before. They see our new approach as betrayal." Steve Parker looked up from his tactical station. "Captain, we may need to prepare for the possibility of military conflict with the hardline Zephyrian factions." Morrison nodded grimly. "I was afraid of that." 3 weeks later, the first test of the new alliance came. A group of rebel Zephyrian commanders had attacked a peaceful colony world in the border region. The planet's inhabitants had sent out a distress call. Admiral Voss contacted Captain Morrison immediately. "Captain, this is our chance to prove that the new way works. Will you help us defend these innocent people?" Morrison did not hesitate. "Yes, Admiral, the Liberty is on its way." The battle was unlike anything seen before in galactic history. Instead of two opposing fleets trying to destroy each other, it was a rescue mission. The USS Liberty and 3 peaceful Zephyrian ships worked together to evacuate civilians from the attacked planet. The human ship used its advanced technology to disable the attacking ships without destroying them. The Zephyrian vessels provided escort and protection for the refugee ships. When the rescue was complete, something unexpected happened. Many of the attacking Zephyrian crews surrendered voluntarily. "Why are you surrendering?" Admiral Voss asked one of the captured commanders. "We heard about the humans," the commander replied. "We wanted to see if the stories were true." "What stories?" "That there are beings in the universe who are strong enough to destroy anyone, but choose to save people instead." Captain Morrison spoke to the captured Zephyrians over the communication system. "You are free to go. We will not hold you prisoner. But we ask that you think about what you have seen here today." "You are releasing us?" the commander asked in disbelief. "Yes, you came here to conquer a world. Instead, you saw that world's people saved by cooperation between former enemies. Maybe that lesson is worth more than any punishment." Over the following months, more and more Zephyrian worlds chose to join the peaceful alliance. Some came because they were tired of constant warfare. Others came because they wanted access to human technology and knowledge. But the most important converts were the ones who came because they had seen humans in action. They had witnessed beings with godlike power choosing mercy over destruction, cooperation over domination. Commander Kesh returned to Zephyr with incredible stories and new knowledge. He established the first Zephyrian medical school based on human principles. Within a year, child mortality rates in his region dropped by 90%. Dr. Helen Price, the cultural specialist from the Liberty, set up exchange programs between human and Zephyrian universities. Young people from both species began learning from each other. Amy Brooks worked with Zephyrian linguists to create a universal translation system that helped dozens of species communicate more effectively. The galaxy was still not perfect. There were still wars and conflicts. Some Zephyrian factions continued to resist change. Other alien species watched the human-Zephyrian alliance with suspicion or fear. But something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in galactic history, there was proof that advanced civilizations could choose cooperation over conquest. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, looking out at the stars. His ship was no longer alone in space. A small fleet of human and Zephyrian vessels traveled together, exploring new worlds and making contact with new species. "Captain," Amy Brooks reported, "we are receiving a signal from an unknown alien ship." Morrison smiled. Another first contact situation, but this time the humans would not be alone. They would have allies who understood the value of peace. Open. "Communications, Amy. Let us see who else is out there waiting to become our friends." The USS Liberty had started its journey as humanity's first warship designed for deep space exploration. But it had become something much more important. It had become the ship that taught the galaxy that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to protect and the courage to choose peace. And in the vast darkness of space, that was the most powerful weapon of all.